Welcome back to Desert Gardening News Podcast. This is, we're so excited. We've got the entire Dr. Q's team together. We've got Dr. Q, also known as Paul No. We are so excited to have you here today. Thank you for being here. Of course, we have Madalyn, who's here joining us today, and we have just a great day full of great information that we know everybody is going to benefit from. So let's get started. Paul, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, again, my name is Paul No. I'm the staff horticulturist for Star Nursery, also known as Dr. Q. And basically, I do a lot of house calls. I've actually started with the company 35 years ago. So I've been with them 35 out of the 40 years that Star Nursery has been in existence. And I've actually done a little bit of everything since I've been here. I started out as an operations manager, and then I went into human resources. I've been in doing advertising and purchasing. And so now I'm basically the horticulturist who answers a lot of questions and gives people hopefully the best information that we can for them to be successful gardeners.
Yes, you do a very good job at that. Now, you're originally from San Diego.
Yes.
And you, if I know this to be true, one of the first youngest to receive a horticultural certificate back in the day, yeah?
Yeah, actually, when I started into the business, it was as a carry-out and water boy at a nursery in Southern California called Nurseryland Garden Centers. I was 15 years old. I worked on weekends and holidays and summer vacations, and I really got interested in reading plant signs as I was watering, and maybe taking a book like the Sunset Western Garden book home with me, and looking up plants that I saw and learning more about them. And actually, I took the exam for the California Nurseryman certification when I was 19 years old. And I passed it the first time, which a lot of people took them 2 or 3 times to actually pass that exam. But I was certified a California certified nurseryman when I was 19, and I've been learning and trying to learn as much as I can. And then I've been here in Las Vegas for almost 45 years now. And I did get certified by actually Lynn Mills and Bob Morris, who were with the Cooperative Extension Service at the time, went through their certification program, and they certified me as a horticulture advisor and a certified Nevada nurseryman at the time with their program. So I've been able to learn a lot, and I continue learning a lot, because in this business, there's always something new to learn.
Absolutely. And it's so exciting because Madalyn, congratulations.
Thank you.
You just graduated and got your certification for the Nevada Nurseryman program.
There's 3 certified Nevada
That's
nurserymen
right. We are. Let me tell you. Wow. The pressure's on now. We better get this right. A lot of people are counting on us. Well, it's really, really exciting, Paul. I appreciate you. I love learning from you, and you inspire me every day. I want to have as much knowledge as you do and as much longevity in the industry as you do. It's really phenomenal. Longevity is something that we at Star Nursery are pretty proud of this month.
Yeah.
We're celebrating our 40th birthday here in the Valley. I don't know. I hope that everybody has been on all of our social media and our platforms and just getting the schedule of events and how we're out in the community celebrating. And it's just a great time to be in this industry, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, you know, we as a company during those 40 years have been quite fortunate in order to grow with the city of Las Vegas. When we first started, there were probably only about, maybe maybe 250, 300,000 people here. And now there's
not a
what,
lot.
2.5 million?
That's crazy.
I mean, and we've grown as a company right along with the city, and it's actually been very, very fortunate for us because we try to get involved with the community as much as possible, and I think that's been one of our major reasons for success in this city.
Yes, and the availability that the community has to us. I think that we've really made our presence in all little pockets of the valley, Las Vegas Valley. We're also not going to neglect Arizona and Utah and Pahrump and Mesquite. And it's quite an accomplishment. And we're really, really proud of where we're at and who we're serving. Okay, so let's get started here, Madalyn. You want to get us on track today?
Thank you guys again so much. I'm so excited to have both Dr. Q affiliates here with me today. And so with the Dr. Q team, did you guys want to talk about a little bit what a house call might entail, or just what you guys do today as our house call specialists?
Absolutely. First and foremost, we are a diagnostic team. Our main goal in the Dr. Q's house calls is to evaluate and diagnose any chronic or acute issues that you might have with your plants. It could be trees, shrubs, lawn, vegetables, annual flowers, perennials. We really do cover it all. And that's why we call it Dr. Q's house calls, because we're like plant physicians.
Yeah, and it is basically only a consultation. We don't do any of the work involved, but what we try to do is inform the homeowners what their problems are, because we're usually called out to take care of a problem that they might have with their plant material or their lawns or whatever it might be, and they don't know what it is. So what we're there for is to do a diagnostic report, just to check over to see if we can determine what the problem actually is, whether it be water, whether it be plant location, heat stress, old age, whatever the problem might be, identify that problem, and then instruct the homeowner what they should do to correct the problems.
Which is so important, especially in our environment. And you never know what could go wrong in our environment.
Well, it is one of our Mojave Desert actually is, it's one of the worst places to actually start into gardening because it's different than almost anywhere in our country. It's got the extreme temperatures, and because of a lot of our customers have moved into the area more recently, in more recent years, they have no idea of what to expect from their landscape or from their garden. So that's why we offer this service, is to help them get started with it, and also so that they can be more successful in their gardening or landscaping projects, because we know it can be very frustrating, and we don't want our customers to buy products from us and then get home and not have a good experience with using our products. We want to make sure they know how to use them and what to expect. So that's a big part of our service as well.
That's one of the things that that's why we're so focused on certifying a lot of our staff as certified Nevada nurserymen, so that the customer has that local expert right on property. And a lot of these things can be prevented. So instead of having a customer who contacts us and this is, I'm just giving up, I'm not going to start a garden anymore, or this is the third time I've planted a plant in this area. And that is really frustrating. And at a certain point, the customer doesn't know who they blame it on. They don't know if it's our products, meaning our plant material, or our store brands, or even commercial brands that they're so used to using in other parts of the country, and don't realize that we're they don't work the same here.
Yeah.
And so us being able to just educate our staff, having those local experts there, our information booth, our salespeople, even our managers, right down to carryouts that are able to help. And then they get comfortable knowing that we are a consistent place for good information, trustworthy with that. And then if they need more at any given time, they can reach out to us with the house calls. They could purchase a house call in advance at any of their locations, and we will be contacting them as soon as possible to get them on the schedule and to be able to come out. And currently, there is a fee. We are in the month of April 2023, and currently it is $90 for us to come out for up to an hour. If you're listening to this in the year 2035, which we're hoping we're still going to be around. It may not be $90 still, but
I don't know if I'll be around.
Yes, you will. You're not allowed to go anywhere, Paul. I need you.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. We have some awesome topics that we're going to be going through with the experts. So stay tuned for our topics. We're going to do our desert gardening news portion of the show, and we're going to talk about the latest in desert gardening news. And then we'll go into our quiz show. And then finally, we're going to end with some information about lawn conversions and what you need to know if you're considering converting your lawn. So stay tuned for all of that, and thank you guys again for being here. Here at Desert Gardening News, we like to start our show by going over the latest in desert gardening news and conservation. And this week, we're talking all about olives. So olives, they've been around for a long, long time, and they're actually one of the first prominent trees in the whole entire world, you know? So Olea europea, meaning European olive in Latin, it's a species of small evergreen tree or shrub in the family of Oleaceae. Can one of the experts help me out with that?
Oleaceae.
Oleaceae, perfect. So fossil evidence actually indicates that the olive tree had its origins 20 to 40 million years ago. And if you learned on our last episode, we talked about, how long trees have been around. So we have now evidence that we've found of trees being around for so many millions of years. There's still more things coming out about these trees that are fresh new knowledge. So we're going to get into that today. So they have been cultivated in the Mediterranean for more than 50 centuries, and as well in Australia, New Zealand, North and South America, and South Africa. And they were first imported to our coast, the West Coast, by a Franciscan missionary in 1769. So it was mainly on the opposite side of the globe, and more recently, in the past few hundred years, has been in the West Coast, and we see them a lot. They're a prominent tree in our community, as well as communities all over the globe. And symbolically, it's been long considered a sacred and holy tree. The olive branch has been often a symbol of abundance, glory, and peace. And the leafy branches of the olive tree were ritually offered to deities and powerful figures as emblems of benediction and purification. And they were used to crown the victors of friendly games and bloody wars. And they've been around, they've just been around forever. And the olive oil, as you know, is a very prominent oil that has been used in holy ceremonies, and a lot of religions use this oil as well in rituals. And so it's so important that we know about the tree because it's in our communities, and it's a controversial tree in our communities. So if you didn't know, in our communities, the fruiting olive tree is on a ban. The Pima County Board of Supervisors declared a health war on olive trees in 1984. So within this past 50 years, it's been on a ban here in our communities. Do you guys know a little bit more about that ban? And, I know it's about pollination and allergens.
It is about allergy problems, and that's why it's banned. Other than that, it's a great tree. It's been around a long time, not to mention the olive oil for cooking is one of the primary things we use in our kitchens. And but the ban itself is primarily just for allergy problems, because the European olive produces a lot of pollen. And so that's the reason it has been banned, starting in our area in the Southwest with Arizona, in the Tucson area, Arizona. That city banned it, like you said, back in, I believe it was 1984.
Yeah. And then that next year, Boulder City, Nevada was then the first Nevadan community to ban it as well.
Yeah,
and they kind of follow suit.
And now it's actually the Clark County Air Quality Control has a ban on it. And so that's what actually is the restriction. It is banned in all of Clark County. Now that is just the European olive. That's the regular old fruiting olive. That's the one that produces a lot of pollen and a lot of olives. Now, there are new varieties that are less pollen producing. They're sometimes referred to as non-fruiting or non-pollen producing olives. That's not entirely true. The only qualification for them to be allowed to be planted in our area is that they have to be proven to produce only up to 15% of the actual pollen that the European olive produces. So as long as they meet that requirement, they have passed, can prove that by certification through testing, then there are certain growers who have been cleared to sell those low pollen producing varieties in our community. And that's the only ones that are available for sale in Clark County. And so those, like the Wilson olive or the Swan Hill olive, those are two of the ones, and the Little Ollie as well. But they have to come from certified producers who can prove that they are growing a variety that is low pollen producing.
And therefore, they get tagged and registered.
Yes, there is a tag that has to accompany the tree from its cutting stage all the way to its selling stage, that has to be attached to the tree during that whole period. And then that tag has to be numbered, and it has to be registered on a form when we receive them and when we sell them, to actually certify that they are low pollen producing trees.
And it's nothing that the homeowner needs to be concerned about. They will purchase the tree, and that tag will be taken off and it'll be registered. And it is registered with the homeowner's information, but it's very general, and it doesn't really go anywhere other than for our accountability. So it's nothing that the homeowner needs to be worried about, that somebody in the state or the county is going to come looking for them because they purchased an olive. It's not what it's about. It's just about following that tree throughout its process and it being verified that it is of the right variety.
And one of the best ways for them to check that is to make sure that that tree, when they purchase it, has a tag on it that certifies it as being a low pollen producer. Yes. Now, once they get it home, they can take the tag off because it's of no other concern after it's planted.
And that certification does not mean that it's not ever going to produce fruit. And why don't you talk a little bit about that, Paul? Because that's a big concern of a lot of people, that once these trees are in the ground, they're growing, they're adapted, they're just flourishing, and that eventually, oh my goodness, I'm starting to see that it's bearing fruit. So talk a little bit about why that happens and how to help in that situation.
Well, primarily, the only way that the tree produces fruit, and this is true of all plants that fruit, is the fruit comes from the flower. So if they're low flowering, or the flower does not get pollinated so that it can produce the fruit, then it's not going to have the fruit. However, the low pollen producing, like I said, can produce up to 15% of the fertile flowers. Now, they can be pollinated, So you may get up to 15% of the fruit produced on a tree. Now, that doesn't always happen. A lot of times it depends on the weather conditions, depends on the time of year. It depends on a lot of different things, but some years those olives may not fruit at all. Some years they may have 5 to 20 fruit on it, a larger tree. And some years they might even produce a little bit more, but that's not to say that they are going to be a total pollen producing problem tree. It's only because those few flowers that have pollinated and produced are going to be on the tree, but it's not going to be anything to worry about because it's not going to be totally fruitless for every year of its life.
And with the fruit that could potentially be produced on these trees, is that fruit that you could use in cooking and you could actually make your own olive oil? Or is that, it's such a small quantity that maybe no, but.
Well, actually, I mean, the way that olives are cured, there's a big process in that. They have to be soaked in a lime brine solution for a number of days. There has to be it's a lot of work involved in,
but people do.
Olives, but
people do. As a matter of fact, we have a huge master gardener community, and there are plenty of volunteer master gardeners that do collect olives, and they make them edible, and they're amazing. I've had them myself. So, but it's a labor of love, and it's something they take such pride in, and they share. So get to know.
And one of the reasons why they can do that is that even though the European olive, fruiting olive, is banned from being sold or planted in our community, that's not to say that there are not a lot of older European fruiting olives in our community. And that's where they can harvest that fruit and actually produce the olives.
Well, yeah, since 1769, since it came to the West Coast, I'm sure because of its popularity throughout history, there was a bunch of people moving from wherever in the world they moved from. They wanted their olive trees. A lot of our older
communities in town have a lot of 50-year-old olive trees in their yards.
That's actually pretty awesome, even though it's kind of controversial, but to be still having the pollen in the air and everything. I think this tree is an awesome tree.
Well, it is a very good choice for us. It does very well here. It is something that is showing that it's going to hold up to our extended high temperatures and our drought situation. So it doesn't take much to keep them beautiful and flourishing. So they are proving to still be a go-to tree for us.
Well, and especially with the shortage of evergreen trees that we can actually grow here year round, olives are one of them. And the low pollen producing olives are great for smaller yards because they don't grow as large as a lot of our shade trees do. So even some of the smaller yards can actually grow them pretty easily. And they do have a good canopy on them. They are evergreen. They do produce a lot of shade. They do need to be thinned out every few years to keep them from, blocking out too much sunlight because they grow so dense. But they are a great tree for here.
I'm a big fan of the olive tree. I'm saying it here now. I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan too. So now, Paul, there are some growth regulators for the fruit. The old fruiting ones. So you want to talk a little bit about that and when to apply them and how they work.
Yeah, actually, if you do have the old European olive that does produce a lot of fruit. A lot of people don't like that because of the fruit drop, and it can stain sidewalks and driveways, and it can be very messy. So if you want to reduce or eliminate the majority of that fruit production, there are products, and one of the best ones is a product called Florel, which used to be marketed as Olive Stop. Now it's just under the Florel brand. What it actually is a growth inhibitor. And so it does is it actually will sterilize the flower if you spray it on just as the flowers are opening. If you spray it, it will cause those flowers to drop off before they can set fruit. So what you want to do is to spray that Florel on your olive trees just as those clusters of flowers that's going to come on the tree in like March and April in early spring. That's when they are going to start opening up. When they start opening up, then you need to start spraying. And then you probably want to spray once a week for maybe 2 or 3 sprayings until the majority of those flowers have all fallen off onto the ground. And then that's going to stop all those flowers from producing. Because
not all flowers open at the same time.
Right.
So you got to get them in their process of opening up.
Yeah. So that might be over a 3 or 4 week period. But
so
if
you keep an eye on it, then
it is. Yeah. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of work to clean up a mature olive tree's fruit drop. And also the birds love them. I mean, they bring a lot of habitat. So you're not only just cleaning up the fruit, you're cleaning up after the habitat. Now, the cautions with this product is that it will inhibit the growth of anything that is flowering to produce something. So if you have an understory, you should be covering the understory of plants. That's the plant population under the tree is referred to as an understory. So that is to be covered. You can just use old blanket, or you could get tarp.
A tarp.
You could get cardboard. You could do whatever you need to do to protect that.
But the whole reason for that is that when you spray the tree, that's going to drip. You want to spray till it saturates. And then as that drips, anything that's growing underneath the canopy of the tree is going to be susceptible to that drip. And if that gets on those plants, it is going to slow down their growth. So they're not going to grow as quickly as you might want them to, or as they normally do when you don't spray. So that's why you need to be a little more careful with that. And you do want to protect that undergrowth from getting that chemical on them.
And wear your personal protective gear too. We're talking gloves, a mask, glasses, some long sleeves, some protective goggles. We sell it in it's by the company Monterey Co. And it's a concentrate. So you could either get a pump sprayer or you could put it in a hose adapter where you put the contents in the little pot. And you read the label. Everybody, read your labels.
Always read the labels. Always.
And also, with the science behind these growth inhibitors, it has been known that by year 2, the tree will respond in an overgrowth as well. So let's say you use it, and the next year you're like, oh, I don't have very many flowers next year. I'm not going to use it. By that second year, it has been proven that the trees take on quite a response. So once you start using it, make a plan to continue to use it at least every other year and help to keep the fruit from coming in even thicker.
Yep, that's good advice.
Thank you guys so much for enlightening us a little bit about this awesome tree.
Well, thank you for choosing this tree and the topic. We thank you,
like
Madalyn.
I said, I'm a big olive fan. I love my green olives, my black olives. I love all the olives. Pitted, no pits. I like it all.
I think you'll be going down to the Master Gardeners to find out how you can do this.
Yeah, let me know what their contact information is.
Okay, I will.
Because I need my fresh olives. They're getting expensive too, especially olive oil. It's all going up in price. So however I can get it, I'll get it. So, well, thank you guys so much for all that information. Up next, we're going to be going into our quiz show. So stay tuned. Well, in this portion of the show, we like to ask our local experts what they know or what they don't know and ask them a series of questions and just see if we can teach them something new, since they're going to be teaching us something new throughout the whole entire show. So we'll start off with our first question. Again, there's no pressure, so don't even worry about it. If you don't know the answer, it's okay. But we'll all learn something new today. Okay. So first question. So which common vegetable can also be a sedative if eaten in large quantities?
So you said vegetable.
So yes, it's a vegetable.
Okay, so it's not like turkey, because turkey's not I know that if you eat too much turkey,
I wonder if turkey tail, the mushroom has any.
And why is it that turkey? What is
turkey has tryptophan in it?
Well, this vegetable also has tryptophan.
Really?
So if you know of any vegetables with it.
Okay.
I know of one, onions.
Oh, there you go. Ding, ding, ding.
They do have tryptophan in them, and it's very possible, I don't know for sure, but any other in that family like garlic or chives, and they all may have tryptophan as well. So
yeah, so that is exactly what it is. Onions are rich in L-tryptophan, and it's an amino acid that acts as a natural sedative. And so if you're eating onions right before you go to bed, I don't know who does that. I don't know what crazy person exactly. What crazy person's just taking an onion, eating it. I only know of the Grinch that does that. So, but if you guys are doing that, then you can get a good night's sleep. My wife
certainly wouldn't allow me to do that.
I know. Could you imagine though being the first person to experience an onion,
knock themselves out with an onion,
and then pick it and see this growth, right? Because it's all underground, and to pull up this root and decide,
I'm just going to eat the whole onion.
I just think that is like all of the pioneers and all the people that went ahead of us to figure food out were really brave.
Well, they say if you cover your nose and you bite into an onion, apparently, I've never tried this, so you try this at home, but it supposedly tastes exactly like an apple. And it's just the amino acids, that fragrance.
No.
Yeah, they say that if you cover your nose and you take a bite out of an onion, it'll taste the same as an apple.
Okay, we're doing a follow-up.
I find it hard to believe too. I've never tried it because I'm not going to bite into an onion.
Watch on Instagram. Madalyn is being challenged.
Yeah, go to Star Nursery LB, and I'm gonna bite an onion. And we're just gonna see.
And I'm gonna give you an apple.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you an onion. We'll do a red apple with a red onion.
And we'll see. Blind test.
A blind test. We'll see.
My eyes only covered. We'll see.
And a pin on your nose.
Clothespin right here.
Paul, you want to be here for that one?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. We might just do it next episode. We'll just bring it in and we'll do it live.
Oh my gosh, that'd be funny.
Good job, Paul.
Paul.
We couldn't stump our local expert here.
I said turkey.
That's why I think maybe turkey tail mushrooms. Like, I wonder.
I've never even heard of turkey tail mushrooms.
You know turkey tail? It's a mushroom used in cooking and stuff like that. I don't know why they call it turkey tail, but maybe it's because of tryptophan.
Maybe.
Who knows? All right, so question 2. We only have a short list of questions. So what tree is struck by lightning more than any other tree statistically? Do you know this one?
More than statistically?
Yeah, so it's known that
you're better at the statistic finding out. So the most frequent one I can think of in our area would be palm trees.
Ah, okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's one because the Mexican fan palm and the California fan palm, but primarily Mexican fan palm, grow very, very tall. So they're one of the most tallest ones that lightning can strike. But the other thing is because they store all of their water in their trunks, in vascular bundles that run up and down their trunks. So all the water's in that trunk going all the way up the tree. So that would be more conducive to lightning strikes, I would assume.
Well, the palm trees for sure here are definitely getting electrocuted more than this tree that I'm going to explain. But statistically, it says in in our world, the oaks are going to be hit by lightning the most out of any other tree. But it's for the same reason that you said. It's because typically the oaks are going to be the tallest in the landscape versus our landscape. You know, we're not going to have as many oaks. We're going to have more palm trees. So you're definitely spot on, Paul. And you're right. It's because these oaks are more conductive thanks to their higher moisture content and the vast number of water-filled cells running up and down their trunks. So for the same reason that the palms are. So if you've got an oak and a palm in your landscape, you better watch out because the storms are coming.
No going out in the rain with an umbrella and a key.
I don't want to
Just
see
not a good idea.
Nobody should be under a palm tree in my neighborhood. Nobody should be under an oak tree. If I see any of you guys out there doing that, I'll tell you right now.
Which in the last month we had so much rain. We've had so much winter rain. It's so great. We really did a good job. How the weeds doing in your yard?
Oh, they're popping up.
Did you get that pre-emergent down?
Not yet. I'm waiting for the rain to stop so I can get out and do some yard work.
I mean, we all need to do that, especially this season. All right, and our last question of the day, you guys are most likely going to know this. What is the only known fruit to bear its seeds on the outside?
Oh, I do know this one. I know this one.
Go ahead.
Strawberries.
Woo! Yeah, we just recently had a super fun event with Heather Ann at our Tropicana location.
Local children's book artist.
Yeah,
yes. Heather Ann Rose.
Our local author Heather Ann, and she did an event with the strawberries, and it was really awesome. And yeah, it's the only fruit to have seeds on the outside, which typically the fruit encases the seed to protect it because that's its reproduction. So it's interesting that the strawberries, they're like, we don't care. These seeds can do whatever they want.
Now, and you can actually sit with some magnifying glass and actually with tweezers pull out every one of those fuzzy little things popping out of a strawberry, and those are the seeds. It's not when you cut it inside that little hollow area in the strawberry that people are so used to. You're right. And people do very successfully just take a strawberry and get tweezers and take the seeds out and let them dry. And then the next season, put them in paper towels and let them sprout. And
I might try that this year. We'll see when I get strawberries on my plant.
But strawberries here will reseed themselves. A lot of people are very, very successful with runners.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, strawberries do very well here.
They can reseed, or they can sprout from their underground runners, which they do very easily.
They do that very easily.
But one interesting thing that kind of just came to my mind is that people with strawberry allergies, I'm wondering, because I don't know, are they allergic to the fruit or are they allergic to the seeds?
I'm not sure either.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Would be interesting to find out. Maybe for our next...
more to come.
Yeah, more to come on that because I'm not sure either. And do we know why it's the only fruit or like what part of its genetic makeup? You know, maybe they're still researching all that.
I have no idea, and I'd be interested in finding that out myself. So maybe I'll do some research on that.
Yeah, if there's any strawberry experts in our community, make sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and send us a message as to why that is, because it's really interesting. Well, you guys did really great. Not a single question went unanswered. So next month, I'm going to have to give you guys harder questions, it looks like, because these are just way too easy for you guys. Just kidding. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating. I hope our listeners learned something new. And up next, we're going to be going over lawn conversions and what you need to know. So stay tuned for that.
Welcome back. And Paul, you and I right now have seemed to be on this topic of lawn conversion. We just finished recording an episode with Southern Nevada Water Authority WaterWise podcast, and that was really, really great. April 15th, you and I have been invited to go to the Springs Preserve here in Las Vegas on their Arbor Day, and we've been asked to be there, meet the experts, and this is going to be the topic. This topic is such an important topic because of the historic drought that we're in and the water conservation initiatives that we have, and really the push to educate the community on what is what's the term of the lawn? It's non-functioning.
Oh, non-functional.
Non-functioning. Now, if you have a lawn that you have children and pets and you are out in it, that is not a non-functioning lawn right now. Right now. There is some controversy about that. And the hope is that homeowners will start to make the decision to convert the lawn from, let's say, the front yard of only being walked on when it's being mowed, right? That is a lawn that we don't want. We want any lawn that there is to be a responsible low water lawn, or just a lawn that's a portion that serves the need of playtime, children, pets. So this has been a huge topic, right, Paul?
Absolutely. And that's because the lawns use so much water, which we're trying to conserve on the water use. And one of the biggest water users is lawns. So we have actually been doing this, and the Water District has been doing this for actually many years now. We were one of the first in the Southwest to actually start converting lawns. The Water District has actually paid customers to take out living grass that's not being used for a specific purpose, and they are paying people to take the grass out to help conserve on the water use. And as of right now, by I believe within the next year or two, they're going to be outlawing any grass that is not having functional use, and they're trying to get rid of any grass that's, say, between the sidewalk and the street, or in that is just serving an ornamental purpose, just for looks and not for actual use, and either having that replaced with artificial turf, which the new artificial turf nowadays really resembles a lawn, very, very similar, and is so much easier to take care of, cuts down on so much expense and so much water use that it's very, very helpful to remove that grass and cut down on the water use. And that's what we're trying to accomplish in our, we're trying to actually extend that to where we can eliminate even more turf, living turf. So.
But there's a lot of things to take into consideration with this. And that's where Paul and I have really tried to be a resource of information to be able to give the homeowner an understanding of what to expect during the process and how to make the decision of what to replace the lawn with, what is a good option. Everybody's situation is different. If you have a 20-year-old shade tree in your front yard and you are going to convert your lawn, there are steps and measures that have to be taken to be able to preserve the life of that tree. It is not black and white situation for everybody. It's not just because you're going to get a certain amount per square footage, just a green light to go ahead and do that. There are some things to really take into consideration. So I would say that the first thing to take in consideration is if you have mature plant material and if there is a mature tree in the front yard, right, Paul?
Yes, and one of the reasons why is because that plant material has grown up most of its life, sometimes from the very beginning, with the lawn and surviving on a lot of the water that is irrigated to the lawn. So underneath that lawn, usually the roots of grasses will only go down about 4 to 6 inches. And so that's why sprinkler irrigation is so good for lawn, because it puts out a large amount of water per square foot that will soak into the ground, and you only run it for a short distance of short period of time that will get down to that 4 to 6 inches for the lawn roots. However, a lot of your your shrubs and trees, especially if they're growing in the lawn or very close to the lawn, their roots are going to go where they get moisture. So if that tree is grown up with the lawn there close by, there are going to be a tremendous amount of the tree roots that have grown up right underneath your lawn roots, because that's where they get the majority of their water. So if you rip out that lawn, you're going to rip out a lot of the roots of that tree or plants that are growing in that area, and that you need to compensate for.
And the likelihood that that mature tree is actually rooted in well is very unlikely, correct? Because we need time for water to reach depths in the soil. And we need a long period of that kind of irrigation to happen to break down the horizons of the soil, making it moist, making the ability for roots to grow. So in a split instant, over a matter of a weekend, that you are removing the lawn and you have a mature tree, the likelihood of that tree being able to quickly acclimate and put on new feeder roots, number one, and some anchoring roots, because they've probably never been well established anyway. It could be that you're going to expect failure in the tree. The failure that you may experience could be immediate leaf drop. It could be discoloration. It also could be wind failure, where the tree actually will fall over. When you have a substantial amount of soil removed from the roots of a mature tree, that is a really big concern. So if you have the potential of facing these things, it may be a good idea to consider removing the tree at the time of a lawn conversion. And that is very, very difficult to say, especially because I am an arborist. Paul and I have been looking out for trees for years and years and years. And to say that is hard, but it gives the homeowner the ability to think long term. Instead of being caught in a situation that they're in within months to years, because it could be years before you see the effects of a lawn conversion on a tree.
Especially on older trees.
And especially on deciduous trees. Deciduous trees have the ability, depending on when that lawn conversion happened, to be able to force itself into dormancy to save its energy and prepare for spring. That is not uncommon either. So it could be years before you know the effect on the tree. So knowing and having a plan, working with licensed contractors that are familiar with lawn conversion, that work closely with Southern Nevada Water Authority, that know that have arborists on staff. You know, you could always hire an arborist or get a consultation before you venture into this decision on what you're going to replace the lawn with. We're still for making the decision to replace the lawn, but let's do what we can to protect the existing plant life.
Well, and let's actually, there are several different ways to handle the lawn removal as well. Some of them are a lot less invasive to the roots of the trees. But what you're going to need to do is the homeowner needs to decide whether they want to try to get rid of that lawn themselves. Because if it's not a real large area, you can use certain herbicides to actually kill the grass without harming the roots of the plant material that's growing underneath that layer of roots of the grass. So that's a possibility, and it's probably the least disturbing way to get rid of or eliminate that lawn. But sometimes that's not possible, and especially with grasses that have much deeper roots, like Bermuda grass, which can root down very deeply, and it's hard to remove all those roots, and it can sprout back with even a few sprigs left in the ground. But it all depends on what you're dealing with, what type of grass, how large the area is, and what you want to do for the replacement ground cover, because there are a lot of choices there as well.
That's right.
You can, maybe you can give them a few options.
Well, we discussed the synthetic turf. Synthetic turf around trees, myself personally, as an arborist, I would not recommend. And the reason for that is because the synthetic turf requires a subsurface to be dug and compacted. And it's a compaction of around, I think, 85% compaction. Concrete is at 92%, I think, or around there. So for a very mature tree, I don't think that's a wise choice. A good choice would be to clear it out, put down a great organic product, and then you could use a weed barrier, which is a fabric weed barrier topped with rock. That is a great option. And to do the Southern Nevada Water Authority's recommendation of replacing 50% of that area being covered with plant canopy.
Drought tolerant, preferably. Drought
tolerant plant material. Right. So you're covering it with shrubs. You've got the plant-based ground cover, and or some people go straight into 100% organic, which would be mulch and then
wood chips.
And I think that that's a great, even just reducing the lawn percentage wise, pavers for walkways being expanded, and then doing organic ground cover in the way of mulch and plant coverage, I think is a great option.
There's a lot of good plant material that actually can be used as ground cover. You know, things like Australian racer, or some of the more desert types like dahlia, the trailing indigo bush. There's lots of different ground covers that can be grown that are low water use plants that would be good replacements for grass. They don't use anywhere near the amount of water that lawns do. But yeah, there are several options. The decorative rock, the decorative organic material like wood chips or other organic material, that's by far the best for the soil. But there are other options as well. So it's really important to think about what you want to do to help relieve those problems. But if you've got a big area and you hire a contractor to dig out or take out your lawn, you want to make sure that you're protecting those areas that they're going to be using, especially if they use heavy equipment like graders or tractors, because they can do a lot of damage to your trees.
You think about those fine feeder roots and where they're located at the base of the tree within the canopy. And that's called the critical root zone. And we want to protect that. And we consider heavy equipment construction site. And if you were to go to any construction site that has a heritage tree or a large mature tree, they actually protect it by putting fencing and signage, and that is the appropriate approach. So if you use synthetic turf, put down synthetic turf outside of the critical root zone. There's lots of different ways to utilize synthetic turf and decorative rock, and get creative and think long term. You know, I try to explain to homeowners during house calls that landscape is not permanent. It's always going to change. Plants are going to change. They're going to die. You're going to want to add something. There's going to be a new variety of a species that you really love, or you decide that blue on your Spanish lavender is not your favorite color anymore, and you want to find yellow and add it. So thinking in long term is really a big important thing. There's plenty of room for all of these types of landscape to coexist. But protecting our trees, I think, is really, really the most important. And getting in contact with a licensed contractor that works with Southern Nevada Water Authority, that is a water smart landscaper, that has the ability to give you your rebates, work with Southern Nevada Water Authority, make sure that you're in compliance so that you get the rebate. And Southern Nevada Water Authority has great tools on their website for plant libraries, what expected future life expectancies of the trees that we're currently selling, projections. Southern Nevada Water Authority is doing a great job. We are always partnering up with them to get the latest information and reflect that in the trees that we offer and the education and the information that we give our experts. So that's just a tip of the iceberg of the conversation of lawn conversions. Like I said before, Paul and I are going to be at the Springs Preserves on April 15th here in Las Vegas for part of their Arbor Week celebration. And Paul, is there anything else you want to add about lawn conversion that we didn't?
No, well, actually, there's a lot of things, but we're going to cover a lot of those in our presentation at the Springs Preserve. So anybody that would be able to attend that, I think, would be very worthwhile. But there's a lot of decisions that the homeowner is going to have to make with these programs, from choosing whether or not you want to eliminate any trees that may be in the area, maybe replacing them with more drought tolerant trees that don't maybe grow as large. But the basic thing is, and that a lot of people worry about, is removing the green plant material that helps cool the environment around the house. And just because you're removing the lawn doesn't mean you have to lose that.
Correct.
Because you can use a lot of low water use plant material that will help reduce that heat island effect and still reduce the amount of water that you have to use.
It is doable. It takes some planning. It's not a hasty decision. It's something that you work with a group of professionals to help you get the full picture of what it is that you want to accomplish. And it's a good thing that we're doing. There is talk that eventually it will become illegal to water a lawn with any Colorado River water. That is where we might be headed. We might be headed. So anything that we can do in our little world to help protect that resource, we should do it, and we support it, and we're here to help.
It's easy to be proactive, especially with the amount of expertise that we have within our community. And there's so many resources out there at this point. And if you have more questions, bring them into the store. You can talk about our local natives plant options in the store. I think it's just a beautiful way to familiarize yourself with what we have available as a homeowner and just walk the yard and find what you like. There's so many options, especially even just color. I know people don't want to lose any sort of color in their lawns, but you can do a lot with what we have available. So come into the store with more questions and come to our event on April 15th. Thank you guys so much for going over this topic. And that's going to be a wrap for us today. If you guys are still with us, thank you again for learning from our experts today on Desert Gardening News. We're going to have our podcast out every single month, so stay tuned for our next episode. If you want to get more involved with Star Nursery and find out what we've got going on, you can follow our socials. We are on YouTube at Star Nursery Dr. Q. We're on Facebook, Star Nursery, and you'll see our Facebook groups, and then Instagram as well at Star Nursery LV. And we're always looking for more questions to answer, more information, and for more involvement from our community. And we want to get to know you guys just as much as you guys want to get to know us, and make sure to come to that event at the Springs Preserve on April 15th to meet the experts yourself and have your questions ready for them. But thank you again so much for being with us, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.